Have you ever wondered what it would be like to look back and see the exact moment when everything changed? I remember that day as if it were yesterday. I was just another invisible kid in the Areal slum, a place where people said dreams were too much of a luxury for folks like us. A place where every wrong step could cost you your life, or something worse, your hope. My mother always used to say, "If you can't leave here now, then take this place with you." At the time, I didn't understand what she meant. How could anyone take something good from a place where everything seemed bad? But today, years later, I realized she was right. Because it was there on that dirt-packed ground, surrounded by trash and despair, that I found my spark. I was 16 when it happened. I worked at an informal market, cleaning bathrooms for loose change. I'd return home at nightfall, as I always did, dodging stray bullets and empty promises. My old flashlight was my only companion on those lightless nights. It was in that suffocating silence that I found something that would change everything. A broken phone tossed in the street, covered in mud. Someone had thrown it away like trash, but I saw something different. I saw potential. You know, sometimes life gives you tough choices. Either you accept what they've told you, that you'll never amount to anything, or you decide to prove them wrong. That night, as I took that phone apart piece by piece, I felt something I'd never felt before. It was as if, for the first time, I could take control of my destiny. And you know what's craziest? That broken phone wasn't just a piece of metal and plastic. It was a metaphor for who I was. Abandoned, forgotten, but full of possibilities. No one understood at first. When I started fixing phones for the neighbors, many laughed at me. "That's not going to get you anywhere," they said. And maybe they were right, at least at that moment. But those small victories, every phone that came back to life, every grateful look from someone who thought their device was lost, showed me that I could do something no one else could. I could turn something broken into something useful. But the real impact came later, when I realized the problem wasn't just the phone. The problem was bigger. It was the system. It was the mindset. It was the lack of opportunities that kept all of us trapped in that reality. I saw smart kids with brilliant minds dropping out of school because they had no future. They didn't see the point in learning math or science because they thought those things wouldn't change their lives. And who could blame them? Everything around you tells you you're worthless. It's hard to believe you're worth something. That's when I had an idea. I started thinking, what if I could use the same technology that saved those phones to save minds? What if I could create something that made kids see value in themselves? At first, it was just a crazy dream. I didn't know how to code, I didn't have money to invest, and I certainly didn't have support. But I had something no one could take away from me: determination. And it was that determination that kept me up all night, watching YouTube tutorials, trying to understand codes and algorithms that felt like they were written in another language. I remember one specific night when everything seemed impossible. I was alone in my makeshift room, lit only by the faint glow of my second-hand computer screen. My eyes burned from exhaustion. My hands trembled with frustration. The prototype app I was developing just wouldn't work. Every line of code felt like a heavy brick I was trying to stack, but that kept falling apart. I wanted to give up. I wanted to throw it all away and accept that maybe people were right about me. Maybe I really wasn't capable. But then I remembered my mother's words, "Take this place with you." Not the place of pain and poverty, but the place of resilience, of struggle, of hope. And I decided that if I was going to fail, I'd fail trying. So I took a deep breath, wiped my tears, and kept going. One line of code at a time. That decision changed everything. It wasn't immediate, of course. There were many failures after that. Many sleepless nights, many doors slammed in my face. But every obstacle taught me something new. Every fall made me stronger. And finally, after months of hard work, I created something that worked. A simple but powerful app that turned learning into a game. Math, science, history, everything became a fun challenge with virtual rewards and visible progress. Kids started using it at the school where I volunteered, and for the first time I saw eyes shining with curiosity where there had only been disinterest before. That was the first revolution. The first time I realized that even in the darkest place, there's always a spark waiting to be found. And that spark, it took me much farther than I ever imagined. But here's a truth no one tells you about dreams. They don't come ready-made, wrapped up in gift paper. They're like rough stones, hard, coarse, full of edges that cut you if you try to hold them without care. And that's exactly how I felt in the months following that night when I started working on the app. At first, everything seemed impossible. I didn't have money to buy a decent computer, so I used an old one I bought for $20 from a neighbor. The screen flickered every 5 minutes, and the processor was so slow I could make coffee while waiting for a line of code to run. But that was the least of my problems. The real issue was that I knew nothing about programming. Seriously, nothing. I could barely open the command prompt without getting lost. So I did what any kid from the slum would do. I taught myself. I watched YouTube tutorials until my eyes burned. I took notes in old notebooks I found in the trash. And when something went wrong, which happened almost every time, I cried out of frustration. Yes, I cried, many times. Because no matter how hard I tried, it felt like the universe was conspiring against me. Every line of code I wrote seemed erased by my own ignorance. But the worst part wasn't the lack of knowledge. It was what people said. "You're wasting your time," a neighbor told me once. "That's for rich people, not folks like us." Another laughed in my face. "You think you're going to get rich fixing phones and making little games?" Even my mom, who always supported me, started questioning. "Lucas, are you sure this is going to work? Maybe it's better to get a steady job." And you know what's funny? Deep down, I wasn't sure either. There were days when I woke up, thinking, what if they're right? What if I really can't do it? But then I'd look at the kids at the school where I volunteered. I saw one of them, Maria, a 12-year-old girl who loved math but was about to quit because her parents needed her to start working to help out at home. She asked me once, "Why study if no one ever gets out of here?" That question broke me in half, because I knew that if I gave up, I'd be confirming for her that there was no way out. It was in that moment I decided I wasn't going to fail. Not for me, but for them, for Maria and all the other kids who needed someone to believe in them. So I kept going, even when my initial prototype completely failed during a test at the school, even when the kids mocked me for creating something boring, even when a local drug dealer threatened me, saying I was wasting too much time on useless stuff instead of helping my family. Each obstacle was like a concrete wall in front of me, but little by little I learned to climb. When I couldn't afford to pay a graphic designer, I taught myself to use free online tools. When my first app crashed and wiped out all the user data, I spent entire nights rebuilding it from scratch. And when people doubted me, I just smiled and said, "You'll see." But of course, it wasn't all defeat. There were small victories along the way that kept me going. I remember the day a teacher came up to me and said, "Lucas, I know it might seem small, but your app helped my students understand fractions for the first time. They're excited." At that moment, I realized I wasn't fighting alone. There were people who believed in what I was doing, even if they were few. And then something unexpected happened. One of those teachers shared the app with a colleague from another school. That colleague, in turn, showed it to someone else. Within weeks, my app was being used by hundreds of kids in different neighborhoods. It wasn't perfect, far from it, but it was working, it was touching lives. That gave me the strength to keep going, because for the first time, I wasn't just fixing phones or trying to survive. I was building something bigger than myself, something that could change the future for others, and even if no one else believed, I knew I was on the right path. But then something happened that I could never have predicted. Something that would change everything, again. It was as if the universe, which until then seemed to conspire against me, decided to give me a break and offer a helping hand. And that hand came from where I least expected it. One day, while testing a new version of the app at school, a teacher named Donna Marta pulled me aside. She was a small woman, but with an imposing presence. She had been my teacher when I was a child, and even back then she always said I had a brilliant mind. Of course, as a teenager, I thought she was just being kind, but at that moment, she looked me in the eyes and said something I'll never forget. "Lucas, you have something special here, don't waste it." She told me she knew someone, a retired software engineer who had worked for big tech companies before moving to our city. "He can help you," she said, But don't expect it to be easy. He's demanding. I didn't think twice. The next day, I went to his house, a simple 2-story home at the end of the street. I knocked on the door, sweating cold, not knowing what to expect. The man who opened the door was tall, with grey hair and thick glasses. His name was Mr. Oliveira, and he greeted me with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. I showed him my prototype, still full of flaws, but with all my heart in it. He spent a few minutes analyzing the code, frowning, and then said, "Do you realize this is a mess, right?" I nodded, feeling my stomach sink. But then he smiled. "But it's also promising. It has potential. If you're willing to learn, I can help you turn this into something real." That moment was like a ray of light cutting through the darkness. For the first time, I wasn't alone. Mr. Oliveira began teaching me things I never could have learned on my own. How to optimize the code, improve the user interface, create more engaging reward systems. He introduced me to advanced programming languages and showed me how to think like a professional developer. And little by little, the app began to take shape. But that doesn't mean things got easier. In fact, it was quite the opposite. With Mr. Oliveira by my side, I realized just how much I still needed to learn. Every new skill I acquired revealed 5 others I didn't know. It was like climbing a mountain that seemed to have no end. There were days when I wanted to give up, thinking maybe this was too big for me. But Mr. Oliveira always reminded me, big ideas require big sacrifices. Are you ready to pay the price? In the meantime, the kids started reacting incredibly to the app. They weren't just learning, they were having fun. They began competing with each other to see who could earn the most points, solve the most math problems, or answer the most science questions correctly. I saw boys who once refused to open a book now begging to use the app during recess. And for the first time, I felt like I was doing something that truly mattered. But the biggest challenge was yet to come, because although the app was working well on a small scale, I knew it needed to expand. It needed to reach more kids, more schools, more communities. And for that, I needed something I didn't have: money, investment, resources. And of course, no one was going to invest in a kid from the slum with a crazy dream and an imperfect prototype. So I decided to take a risk. I gathered all the savings I had, the little money I earned fixing phones, and made a simple video explaining the app. I recorded it all on my old phone, telling my story, showing the impact the app was having on the kids. I posted it on social media without high expectations. After all, who was going to notice something posted by an unknown kid from the slum? But once again, the impossible happened. I'll never forget that morning. I woke up as I always did, early, exhausted, with a body aching from another sleepless night trying to improve the app. I picked up my phone to check notifications, not expecting much. But then I saw something that made me freeze. The video I had posted on social media, the one I recorded on impulse without high expectations, had gone viral. Millions of views, thousands of comments. And they weren't just empty likes or emojis. People were actually talking about the app, about me. A famous influencer shared the video with their millions of followers, saying, "This kid from the slum is proving that technology can change lives. We need to support him." Suddenly, my phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Messages from parents, teachers, entrepreneurs, politicians. Everyone wanted to know more about the app. Some offered help. Others asked to collaborate. And, for the first time, I felt like the world was paying attention. But you know what was even more amazing? In the following days, I started receiving messages from the kids. One girl wrote, "Thank you for creating this. I thought I'd never be good at math, but now I love learning." A boy said, "You showed me I can be someone." Each message was like a soft punch to the chest, reminding me why I had started all of this. It wasn't for the money. It wasn't for fame. It was for them. Not long after, investors started reaching out. Big tech companies, investment funds, even the government wanted to talk to me. At first, I thought it was a dream, or maybe a cruel prank. But it was real and terrifying. Because suddenly I wasn't just the kid from the slum fixing phones. I was someone being taken seriously. Very seriously. The most impactful offer came from a global tech company. They wanted to buy the rights to the app and invest billions to expand it worldwide. My first thought was, this is insane. How could anyone pay so much for something I created in an improvised room? But then I realized this was bigger than me, bigger than my slum. It was an opportunity to bring education to millions of children around the world. Of course, accepting that offer wasn't easy. I had to make tough decisions about how to stay true to myself, about how to ensure the app remained accessible to those who needed it most. But I knew I couldn't waste this chance. So with my heart racing and my voice trembling, I accepted. And just like that, within a few months, my life completely changed. I went from being invisible to being recognized wherever I went. Money was no longer an issue, far from it. But honestly, money was never what motivated me. What really mattered was the impact, and for the first time, I could clearly see the magnitude of that impact. I returned to the Areal slum where it all began. I walked the same streets where I had once been ignored and rejected, but this time people looked at me with pride. "You represent us," a neighbor told me. "You've shown us that it's possible to leave here and do something great." And in that moment, I realized my journey wasn't just mine. It belonged to all of us. Today, years after all of this, when I look back, I clearly see how every piece of my journey fits together. Every obstacle, every tear, every sleepless night, it was all part of something bigger. And you know what I've learned? That success isn't a destination. It's a path full of falls, lessons, and fresh starts. But I've also learned something even more important, that no one achieves success alone. If I am who I am today, it's because there were people who believed in me when I doubted myself. My mother, who taught me to take my place with me. Donna Marta, who saw something special in me when I was just a lost boy. Mr. Oliveira, who showed me that big ideas require big sacrifices. And the kids who reminded me why I was doing all of this. Today I own one of the largest educational technology companies in the world. My app has impacted millions of children in both poor and wealthy countries. I've earned money, fame, awards. But you know what I'm most proud of? It's not the numbers in my bank account. It's knowing that the spark I found at the bottom of the well now lights the path for so many others. I've returned to the Areal slum many times since then. I've invested part of my money into improving the community, building schools, tech centers, and mentorship programs for young people. I wanted to show the kids there that they too can dream big, that they too can transform their lives, just as I did. Because in the end, we aren't defined by where we were born. We're defined by what we do with what we have. If you're listening to me now, I want you to know something. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter how difficult your situation is today. There's always a spark inside you, waiting to be discovered. Maybe it's in something you love to do, in a problem only you can see, or in a dream that seems impossible. But it's there. And if you nurture it, it can pull you out of the darkest place and take you to the greatest heights. My mother was right. I took my place with me, but not the place of pain and poverty. I took the place of resilience, of struggle, of hope. And that's what brought me here. So I ask you, what will you take with you? Where will you decide to go? Because in the end, we all have two paths ahead of us. The easy path, where we accept what the world says we are, or the hard path, where we prove we can be more. I chose the second. What about you? I know my story may seem unique, but the truth is that each of you also has a spark within you. Maybe you're stuck in a job that doesn't fulfill you. Maybe you're facing challenges that seem impossible to overcome. Or maybe you simply think you weren't born for great things. But I'm here to tell you, you're wrong. You don't need to be perfect to start. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to take the first step. Whether it's learning something new, trying to solve a problem no one else sees, or simply believing you deserve better. Because trust me, the world is full of opportunities disguised as challenges. So I challenge you, look inside yourself, find that spark, and believe in it, because just like me, you can transform your life. And who knows, maybe you'll even change the world. If this story touched you, like this video and share it to spread this powerful message of inspiration and success to more people. We've left a gift in the pinned comment or video description to help you on your transformation journey. Your transformation journey can begin here today. What will your first step be? Peace and light to all.